You should do as many things as possible to decrease the amount of risk someone has to take to make a bet on you.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Get to Be School. I hope you're doing well. It's a busy week over here. I'm about ready to head to the airport, going to New York for work for the first half of the week, then jumping back to Utah for the second half of the week to be with some family. And then we head to Chicago the next week. So I hope you're doing well. Today's episode is a fun one for me personally. Doug he's a close friend that I've made in the evening and weekend program, and I really appreciate him. We've had a few classes together, and I've been hesitant to bring someone from the evening and weekend program into the show just because I know it's not everyone's plan. I know that it's a little bit more niche, and I'm very biased towards it, but I didn't want to impose my own biases on the listenership. But I do think that it's definitely worthwhile. There are too many people out there who want an option of not stepping away from work, but still getting a great MBA. And so I'm grateful that Doug would come on the show, share his insights, talk about how he's doing it. I love his perspective that he'll share of embracing the juggle. You know, we hear oftentimes, and rightly so, that if you do too many things at once, you do them poorly. But he takes a positive and an optimistic spin on that and enjoys the hustle, enjoys juggling. And so I appreciated that lens. Please keep doing what you're doing as listeners, as the community. This is just so fun when someone will reach out, when someone will make an introduction, when I hear about the show being passed on. It's just really, really quite enjoyable. And I know that right now, especially with round one applications coming due soon, is very tense. It's very busy. And I implore you to reach out if we can do anything for you. So we want to make introductions. We want to help. We want to do anything we can for this community. And besides all that, just please keep doing what you're doing. We'll keep doing what we're doing. And if we can do anything more, let us know. Otherwise, let's get to this great conversation now with my main man, Doug. Doug, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, Drex, thanks for having me.
Oh, we've been trying to plan this for a minute. We've had classes together for what, almost a full year now.
Yeah. Yeah, I've 3 out of my 4 classes we've had together.
Some have been great. We've gone through them, but they've all been pretty good. Doug, would you mind introducing yourself to the listeners a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Lifelong Chicagoan, born and raised here. Right now, kind of working to place my energy in all the right places. And what that looks like right now for me is building life with my new lovely wife. Just celebrated our 1-year anniversary. So that's been nice. And also figure out ways to channel my passion that I had from playing baseball in college into some things I do now. So golf, 6 softball, CrossFit are kind of some things I've poured that side of myself into. Also, it's building a career in sports media, which grateful that I'm able to align a lot of my personal passions into what I do every day. So super thankful for that. And also try to live life with a faith-filled lens. It's been a big part of my life, and kind of pouring into as many relationships as I can. Also, if anyone wants to play chess on chess.com or binge some Seinfeld reruns, I'm your guy. But no, thanks again for having me.
I didn't know this about Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a big Seinfeld fan.
Oh, we can do it.
I love that. I looked you up on Instagram and I saw that you had a cross coffee and baseball. That's so great. Walk us through, you're doing the evening program, and that program carries a lot of preconceptions or a lot of assumptions. So I'm interested to hear your thought process around why you chose the program that you did, if you considered other options.
Yeah, it actually started a while ago. I went to a smaller liberal arts undergrad, so that was one of the benefits, was able to connect with a lot of professors on a personal level and still personally in touch with a lot of them, and they were great mentors for me. It's been nice to be able to maintain that relationship. But one of my professors, he actually went to Kellogg. So he had always kind of been peppering it in my mind. And as I was a senior getting ready to graduate, he was talking to me more about it and advised to get some work experience first and then kind of get into it. So that was something I'd always kind of been moving towards. And ideally too, right now, just with the time and energy I have now, wanting to pour into that aspect of career and trying for the future as much as I can to hopefully free up some of that time and have autonomy later in life, and more family comes along, or being able to kind of dive into that side of things as well. I learned this a couple weeks into Kellogg, but I went to one of the lunch and learns that they have where they bring back former alumni. And the guy that came back was actually employee 101 and started the Department of Homeland Security. So very interesting talk, really cool to talk to him and connect after. But he had a line that really stuck with me. It was, early in your career, you should do as many things as possible to decrease the amount of risk someone has to take to make a bet on you, whether that looks like diversifying your skill sets, trying new things, taking ownership of projects. The more you can do to kind of give yourself a wide base and various backgrounds and different skills, that'll help ultimately make someone that is going to have to make a bet on you at some point in your career kind of lessen their load or give them some peace of mind that you are up for the task or worth taking a chance on. So that really stuck with me. And I think that applies to a lot of kind of self-development or upskilling that you can do, but really kind of keeping that in mind and getting as much experience as you can.
Wow. Yeah, I love that. It's early in your career, do as much as you can to decrease the amount of risk that someone has to take on you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. Okay, well then if business school was, a part of the plan for a while, why did you choose the program that you did?
Yeah, that was something I was thinking about. And I always envisioned doing the part-time evening and weekend program just from my personal standpoint, needed to continue working during it and also really like the job I am in now. So being able to continue that while also getting this different experience or kind of enhancing my ability to contribute at work. That was always something that was really enticing for me. And also really love the aspect of balancing a couple different things at the same time. Really like that in undergrad, playing sports and going to school. I stopped playing baseball the last year and a half of school because of injuries. So I kind of took a look in the mirror and figure out what that next phase is going to look like. And then I did 5 internships in the last year and a half of undergrad. So it was like, I always kind of had that taste or that want to be balancing a few different things at the same time. So I envisioned that this would obviously be a lot of work, but something I'd be really passionate about. And also I'd be lying. I mentioned I went to a smaller undergrad. Having a Big Ten team to root for is awesome.
Okay. Do you go to a lot of the games?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot of benefits of the gig. We get a lot of tickets, do a lot of events, lifelong Chicago sports fan. So it's been fun to do a lot of that. And I actually grew up like going to Northwestern games. So it was kind of fun to be able to come full circle and now be at the school itself.
Yeah, that's way cool. Then going back to a different thread, you like to juggle. Do you feel like you're at your max? How is the juggle with the evening and weekend program and a demanding career and a new marriage?
Yeah, it's been a work in progress, I would say. And I think honestly it's been that way from when I started the application process. I was in the thick of wedding planning and got married during it. And it ended up working out for me, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. But kind of been juggling from the get-go. But one thing that I love and thought going into it that I really like about the evening and weekend program is being able to apply a concept you talk about at night the very next day at work. And that's been really beneficial for me and also given me some opportunities to share what we talk about in classes at work, like a monthly update on things that are going on in class, which has been really interesting because a few of the classes I've taken is like directly correlated with a lot of stuff we do here at NBC. So that's been really fun to do. And I think the stat is 70% of adult learning is by doing. So it's been nice to kind of get that concept and then actually work on applying it the next day. So I've really enjoyed kind of that aspect of the evening weekend program. But from balancing time, still trying to perfect it, but do a lot of calendar blocking. One thing I think I've taken more out of it is looking at it where I can apply my energy rather than just strictly like bucketing time to do certain tasks. So for example, obviously the 45 minutes after might exercise in the morning or have your coffee might be a little bit more productive than the 45 minutes you have after you get home from a long work day. So trying to find those pockets of the day that I do have a lot of capacity to dive into some of those harder tasks, like prioritizing what those things are. That's been helpful for me to do. And also I'm a self-proclaimed yes man. I like to do a lot of different things or friends are asking or anyone's asking. I'm the first person to jump at it, but that's been that adjustment. I've had to say no to more things than I've had to in the past. But I think that's part of the investment and you have a good reason for doing it. I mean, it's been a really exciting challenge to dive into, and I've loved every step of it, and just being able to structure days in different ways and being able to kind of flex different muscles and try out new things. Grad school is a great place to try things that you're not very good at or that you've wanted to try. That's like a low risk environment rather than taking on a new project at work that you might not be qualified for. There's really no downside in doing that at grad school. So that's been really nice to do. And also one thing I've worked really hard to keep, I know I mentioned not as much of a yes man as the past, but being able to make that time for the people you love and making memories with people that really fill up your cup and give you more energy. I've made a concerted effort to continue doing those things, even with a busy schedule. Arthur Brooks, he's a psychologist at Harvard, but he's been on a few podcasts that I've listened to. And that's something he really hones in on and advises to avoid burnout or to actually like give you more capacity for higher work output is to maintain those strong relationships in your life and keep that time to build those memories. So I'm trying to balance that as much as I can. Only about 6 months into it, so we'll see how the probably 2 years remaining goes. But yeah, really excited to continue on.
That's great, man. Well, you said that grad school is a great time to try out new things. What's been something exciting that you've tried out since you started Kellogg?
Yeah. And one of them was actually the Monday night class you and I had, kind of flexing some data analytics muscles that I didn't have before, and working in R was something I was looking to get out of the program at Kellogg and get some more quant skills that I don't necessarily use a lot in my day to day, but could open up doors and just give a kind of more level of understanding moving forward. So some things are really cool in that class that tied into some of the things I do on a day to day is, like, for example, taking companies' consumer data set and analyzing it and clustering and coming up with who their top 3 consumer segments are. That's like what we do with clients a lot on a day-to-day basis, but actually like kind of getting that behind the scenes view into how companies or marketing teams actually do that and kind of get a peek under the hood was really beneficial. And also our professor being head data scientist at Meta and publishing a lot of National Bureau of Economic Research papers. I actually, one of the papers he was publishing, we like used that work. I'm like, I didn't recognize that page. And then I got dinner with him before one of the classes and he was talking more about it. And it was really interesting to like just pick his brain more. And that's something I've loved about the program too, is keeping some of that undergraduate hunger I have for kind of making those personal connections, but actually meeting with some of the professors has been really nice too with the program.
Love it. Every professor that I've had so far is always, they're practically begging us to, like, take that one-on-one time. Great that you do. I have not done that yet. That's almost a segue in something else that I wanted to touch on that you said. This idea of being with people who fill your cup, being with people that you love. Part of the sacrifice for me in doing the evening and weekend program is definitely less time for social interaction. How are you still filling up your social interaction cup, even with all that you have?
That's been obviously a tougher thing to actually do than say. But one thing I've been trying to integrate that into the Kellogg program itself and be able to still hold time to connect with new people and network. And that was one of the things I was most excited about the program, was people that you get to meet during it. Whether that is like picking a few events a month or every couple months and saying, I'm going to go to this. And like we talked about earlier, like make sure I have the energy to show up and be able to be attentive and make as many connections as you can. Because obviously it's different if you show up after a super long day at work that you're burnt out, or rather than you like prepare for it the day or weeks leading up to it, to make sure you have that time to connect with others. And one thing too, I was thinking about how to like connect with others there, and then alumni, and I connected with a few alumni before actually submitting my application to kind of pick their brain about the program, any best practices and things of that nature. And one of them, he said, this is maybe a little too much, but he's like, if you're not connecting with at least 4 alumni every week, you're doing Kellogg wrong. And so something that I going into it, I'm like, I'll try to do as much as I can. And obviously that's a high bar. I've been able to see kind of the long-term benefits of making as many relationships as you can and going into them with no agenda and just genuinely connecting with as many people. And you never know the dots that cross down the line or the people or who knows who. So I've seen the value kind of before coming into the program. So that was something I really wanted to focus on. And actually this new school cycle we're going into, I am going to be on that board for the evening and weekend marketing club, leading the alumni relations part. So kind of get to continue to flex that muscle a little bit and connect with alumni and bring them back and do some panel discussions for current students. So I'm really excited to pour more into that as well.
That's great. When you talk about meeting with alumni, what's the mix of full-time versus evening?
I would say right now it's been about 50-50. But going into the program, it was all evening and weekend, just because I was working on the application or thinking about things and things of that nature.
Okay, I want to finish up with 2 questions. First question is, what's something that people might not really understand, or that maybe you didn't understand before starting the program, specifically around the evening and weekend program?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say going into it now and having a few quarters under my belt, one thing that I've really enjoyed, and I didn't necessarily know coming into it, was that the professors obviously know that everyone has a full-time job while they're doing it. So the manner in which a lot of the classes are structured is very good for that sort of balance and focusing on actual retention and connection and applying and kind of connecting the dots rather than memorizing things and tests and long homework projects and things of that nature. Cause I didn't necessarily know going into it, what that would look like. But I think I guess the academic structure has been really nice to be able to continue that balance and also make sure you're taking a lot of things out of it, that you're supposed to. And actually one thing I didn't necessarily know how beneficial this would be going into it, but the amount of students that are in the program from various backgrounds has been really interesting just to get exposure into different careers and different points of view on whether that's like business strategy class, where there's a lot of different cases with a lot of different industries. And no matter what industry we chose, I felt there was always a couple hands like, oh, I work with that company or I've done something like that, which it was cool. Because obviously you can only speak on your personal experience and you just get so much of a more rich conversation if someone's actually done it rather than talking about it like in a theoretical sense. So that's been really nice to see. But then I would say from it's like a benefit of going into the program, like one connection I made from our Monday night class, guy that sat next to me, him and his wife came over and he was from Beijing and moved here with his 1-year-old daughter and brought his mom over too. And he's doing the program full time. We sat next to each other and built a great relationship over that quarter. That's a connection like I never really thought I'd have access to or have that opportunity. And he worked for the Chinese bank, giving loans to emerging countries and spent 2 years in Pakistan and help them build their rail system. So it was just like stuff like that I take for granted working in an office that's a 10-minute walk from Weebolt and people are traveling across the country to be part of this program. So that was an unexpected benefit that just made me even more grateful for the opportunity as well.
I honestly thought you knew him from before the class because you guys hit it off super well.
Yeah. No, Jalen, he's my guy. Oh, no.
Let's wrap up with advice. You said, it's still a work in progress. You're figuring stuff out, but you've had great success with the program that you chose. So what are you telling someone in your shoes 3 years ago?
Yeah. That's something I've tried to think about more now that I'm actually doing this. I would recommend that if you're going to do something or take a leap of faith to do a program like this, you have to be all in on doing it. And if you're kind of wishy-washy or not necessarily sure if it's the right decision, I would say it is just based on if you have that inkling already. But going into it, I would make sure that you do have the motivation and the personal passion for doing the program because it is a lot of work and it's going to be a lot of sacrifices, both monetarily and socially and mentally. Obviously, it's for the long-term benefit. So always an advocate for doing things that sacrifice short-term gain for long-term gain. But I would say make sure that you do want to do the program you're going into. And that was actually one of the reasons why I only applied to Kellogg was for some of the reasons I mentioned earlier. I wanted to do the program here and it was meant to be, But this was the program that I was most passionate about. And I knew that I needed to have kind of that verve for it, like going into it. So that's something I'd recommend. And also with the actual application process, I would make sure that everything you're doing is authentic to you. I was really grateful for a lot of the mentors I had that helped me with the application process and proofread essays and helped with interview prep. And that was honestly one of my favorite parts of the application process was being able to reach out to a lot of people in my network that I hadn't talked to in a while, or that I was talking to about like potentially doing this and then actually going through with the application and getting into it was a lot more rewarding that I had other people that were supporting me along the way, which it's fun to do things like this or I've talked to a few prospective students that want to get in the program that pick my brain about it. So it's nice being on that side where you can start giving back rather than always asking people to show you the way. It's nice to be able to do something.
Wow. Okay. Shared some great things. I love that emphasis on being all in. So I think that matters. That might sound obvious, but it's very easy to not be all in, especially with the evening and weekend program. And yeah, I think that's sage wisdom. Well, Doug, I could keep talking to you for a long time. And fortunately, we're classmates. So this doesn't have to be a one-time convo. But thank you so much for coming on, sharing your time and sharing your insight. We know you're busy and it means a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Drex. This was a lot of fun.
I was impressed that you go to so many social events. I went to one full-time party and it was the absolute worst night of my year.
It was
I
so.
haven't gone to one of those.
Oh, what are you going to?
Going to like networking happy hours.